7 key locations, but there is a need to precisely allocate these locations, because in these 7 locations, some of the points is very important for the water accounting point of view, especially at the downstream pottery. So as far as the Punjab is concerned, Punjab has already developed a water accounting system for main canal up to the minor level, and which is updated on the daily basis. And there is a double check from the monitoring teams, although the field irrigation staff is sending the data, but in order to double check, we have the monitoring teams which are also surprisingly collecting the data and updating on the database.
Your question was in fact regarding the demand of the farmers. Of course, whatsoever we have learned from many publications, that now there are about 1.2 million tube wells. So almost 50% of the water is being consumed from the groundwaters. It means 50% from the surface water in the Punjab and 50% from the groundwater. You may say, of course, the surface water is based on a supply-driven system, but the tube wells are providing a demand-based. And in further, whatsoever we have learned, that the agriculture department has introduced a project regarding the small dams on the outlets, especially for the farmers. That is a good initiative to meet the demand of the, and definitely it will be helpful to meet the demand whenever the water is needed, and they can store the water in the small dams whenever they were having the surplus water. For example, if there is any rainfalls in the areas, and they can store the water in the ponds, small dams, small ponds. So in this way, they can meet the demand at the cheaper rates, instead of extracting the water from the ground.
In continuation of that, Dr. Bodla Sahab, I just would like to know that, for example, water accounting system realizes that agriculture is using more water, and there is need to divert that water for drinking or domestic uses as a result of water accounting. What challenges do you see that are possible, because farmers are not easily giving that water for other sectors?
Because in the water record, every department has its own shares, and it is at the liberty of the province to use the water according to their own needs and according to their own requirement. So they can distribute the water whatsoever they have according to the card. They can distribute the water for the drinking purpose and also for the industries wherever they are needed. There is no compulsion on them that they cannot give the water.
And it is easy?
We are providing the water to the industries, especially for the coal water projects. We have provided the water, and similarly for the drinking purpose, especially in the small villages, public health departments, they apply for the drinking purpose, and we provide them the water. That can be obtained easily. That is not the complex.
Thank you, sir. Now I will move to Dr. Jahazeb Masood Chimma, who is working as a chairman in the Department of Land and Water Conservation Engineering at Arid Agriculture University, Rawalpindi. He is a remote sensing expert and has experience using multi-sensor satellite data to manage water resources in data-scarce river basin. He has a special focus on developing methodologies to efficiently utilize satellite measurements for hydrology and to model conjunctive water use in transboundary Indus River basin. Dr. Chimma has also published several research publications that are focused on the transboundary sort of issues. So I would request, so I would like to ask from Dr. Chimma that how do you see what academia has achieved in water counting and what is missing at the Pakistan level that we need to do so that we will fill the missing gaps in this subject?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman, for giving me this opportunity. And before going to answer your question, I would like to congratulate you and your team and IWMI and PCRWR as well, because you really pitched the right time, because this policy dialogue was required a couple of years back, and we are doing such sort of conferences and all those dialogues over here. But as far as the link between the policy and the science is concerned, because first I would like to make a pitch for that as well. So we did a survey, and we actually wrote a report as well in collaboration with a guy from Terry, India, when about 5 years back. So in that report, we actually gone through about 200 papers. About 100 papers were from science side and 100 papers were from policy side, and all those papers were focusing on transboundary Indus Basin. So it was astonishing for me as well that in that all that effort we actually made, about less than 10% of the times the policy makers actually asked the scientists to write something, right, or academia or research organization to write something regarding Indus Basin or regarding the water accounting and water productivity as well. So but I mean, most of the time which we actually looked over there, about 45% of those papers, the scientific papers, they were actually focusing on surface water, groundwater, and conjunctive use of both the surface and groundwater. So it's a huge number of papers which we are actually writing over here as far as academia and research organization is concerned. But I mean, there was no such link between the policy guys and the academia, that this type of research is really, we need this type of research, right? So academia was just doing their research for research. We are just want to have some MSc thesis or PhD thesis, and that's it. So that's why we are trying to get some data from thanks to irrigation department. They are always very kind to give us some data sets. Also PMD and other organizations, they are actually providing these data sets, but there was no real link between both policy and scientific people. So that's good that you have actually make this arrangement over here. And while I mean going through these papers, about 205 papers we actually read during 2-3 months of time. So special extent of the information or research which the people were doing and the academia was doing, 47% of those papers was on really in this Pakistani side. So we have plenty of data sets that are available for the Pakistani sides as far as data is concerned. Not exactly, I mean, like for FAO or for other organizations, there are some restrictions that you have to pay something, but for academia, that data is it's freely available. I have contacted Bodla Sahab and all those, so we have received that data set as well. And as far as transboundary Indus Basin was concerned, only 16% of those those researches were focusing on transboundary Indus Basin. So it means that for the Pakistani side of Indus, we were having like 47% of papers over there. That means enough data sets. But when we go for the transboundary, Indian was also there. So from that side, we are lacking that data sets. So so just saying that we are not having enough data and the data is not available, this is the one story. I mean, we have to do some tricks, we have to have some contacts, we have to write some letters, but academia is getting that data, that's for sure. And other important outcome of that study was that the temporal extent. You have also seen a presentation from Lisa. She was showing about 20 years data set, but that was before 2017, I guess, from 2003 to 2017. So because all those datas, they actually make it like available to the public. So about 40% of that papers were like they were having data 10 years back of what they actually wrote that, right? And only another thing was like if they are going for 1 to 2 years, even then they were having like 34% of scientific publications were on 1 to 2 years data sets. But like the data from 5 to 10 years, that was less. So again, large data sets for the last years, I mean greater than 10 years we are having enough data set over there, but I mean we have to make that data available for last 10 or 5 years, because that is the critical time that we need that data sets for doing some researches. And then data quality. So Dr. Wahaj was also talking about data quality, and out of those 200 papers, about 52% of papers were written just only without checking the data quality. There was no methodology check, there was no quality check over there. So 52% is huge number if we calculate for the whole Indus Basin. Then and only 8 to 10% papers were there that were having some methodology checks or some data checks. So these are the important issues that which we can actually expect from the data availability as well. But as far as academia is concerned, specifically in Pakistani side, we have enough opportunities to connect with, specifically with the irrigation department, with the PMD as well, to get those data sets. So I mean, and another thing is that important thing is that I was missing that we should develop linkages between those organizations, that irrigation department is here and then PMD and all those, and come up with some sort of work that is required by the policymakers. So that's what I would like to give a message over here as well, that if something is asked by the policymakers to do some research, it will be more beneficial rather than just producing the papers and the thesis and it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sir. That's really useful. So now I will move to Dr. Bashir Sir, who is hydrologist, water management specialist with 25 years of professional experience in research, academia and consultancy services. He holds PhD Civil Engineering from Tokyo University and Bachelor of Engineering, Agriculture Engineering from University of Agriculture, Islamabad. Currently, he is serving as a National Climate Change Coordinator of Ministry of Food Security and also Director Climate Energy and Water Research Institute in Pakistan Agriculture Research Council. His areas of interest are investigation of impact of climate change on water resources and agriculture, climate change and food security, hydrological modeling, irrigation and water management. Dr. Bashir has developed and executed 25 regional and national projects and produced several publications out of that in his career. Dr. Sab, I would just like to know that we have discussed about the data quality, data gaps, and also about the methods how we collect the data. But could you please tell that how good water governance depends on transparent water accounting systems? What steps do we need to take to connect the water governance to water accounting?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman, for providing this opportunity. And thank you, I think, on a very important topic of water accounting. Yes, I think water accounting is very important and very rightly said yesterday by President of Pakistan. And until and unless we don't have a measurement, and then we cannot have a very precise planning. In account of that one, I would say our planning has been mostly focused on irrigated areas, canal irrigated areas. Our investment has been only majorly focused on canal irrigated areas, and we have neglected, I would say, other areas which are outside Indus Basin irrigation system. It's mainly because of, I would say, in the absence of water accounting, water measurement that was missing, and we didn't realize the importance of what contribute those area could contribute in that one. So I think for that one very important step already WAPDA and IWMI have already taken in terms of telemetric system, reviving the telemetric system. So that is one aspect, and we need to, I would say, outside of the Indus irrigation system, have some water measurement system on those tributaries, which may be helpful for water source development for those areas. Once we have some sound kind of measurement, then we would be in a position to have some setup of a counting system as well as investment, proportionate investment. So that was, I think, the most important thing. And in addition to, I would like to add two of the pilots PRC we are planning. We are moving ahead for those pilots. One is as we know that the groundwater, so there is we don't have any precise kind of water measurement system. So there are a lot of tube wells which are abstracting water, and we don't have any water budgeting for that one. And now solar water is main, I would say, player getting into the game. There are a lot of solar water pumping, and it might have abstracting on the groundwater. So we are doing a pilot putting census-based water measurement in a Shekhupura. There we could have online we could have how much water is being pumped out from that pellets, and so we can advise and sensitize the government that we could have some policy as solar water pumping investment is there, with the very little investment with some water measurement, so we can have that kind of water counting in terms of pumping for that one. So that is one pilot we are conducting, and hopefully with the success we can advise the government for the new initiative on the groundwater pumping, solar water pumping. We could have some measurement tags over there. And another pilot we are doing, as we are talking about the we have a supply based canal irrigation system there, but there are a lot of areas outside industrial basin, there small dams, mini dams are there, and we are putting one pilot on a mini dam where we could have a demand based system we can apply, and there that would be completely sensor based soil moisture and then irrigation. So it will be complete automated system. So sensor based when is demand, and then from the supply side, so it would be automated, and we are planning in the Punjab for that. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bashir. I think one thing is clear from the panelists that data is some issue or a big issue, and I would like to move to yourself, sir. You are taking all this criticism. For example, groundwater at least it comes under your domain somehow. What is departmental thinking on having some sort of robust database systems? To provide, because policy is not possible until or unless you don't have good data, evidence, information, and water accounting needs that data. How department thinks about that? Do you think you are doing good, or what is your thinking at departmental level?
And there are in fact two kinds of data. One is the surface water data, and other is the groundwater data. For the surface water data, when the canal system was constructed by the British peoples, they were having the very robust system. It will be surprising to know for everybody, they were actual observing the discharge of the main canals on each barrages on daily basis. There were the actual observation of each canal from the barrages on daily basis, and there was also a robust system for the measurement of discharges even up to the minor levels. This system continues, and always the record of the data was captured in the registers. This system continues till the 1980s. Capturing of discharge, measurement of discharge. But after the 1980s, when the political regime came into the power, all these systems vanished. And of course, the recording of the data, that remains, but the measurement, actual measurement in the Punjab, that almost the people ignored that activity. in 2006, the department realized that they are missing a lot of things. So they established the program monitoring and implementation unit that is called the PMIU. That is was the independent unit, and they were given the task to measure the discharge of the entire irrigation systems. And now the monitoring teams are measuring the discharge of all the entire irrigation systems. They measure the discharge, they prepare the discharge table, the rating tables, and the head office issues the discharge table to the concerned field divisions. And so all the discharge table rating curves which are available at the site, these are issued by the monitoring system, and these are also updated on a regular basis. That one thing has revived by the irrigation department. Not only they are measuring the discharges, but they are also having the second check on the data provided by the field staff divisions. But there is always a tendency, because the main objective of the department is always to ensure the equitable distribution of supply in the systems. And equitable distribution system normally was measured for the layman purposes, that either the water is reaching at the tails of the channels or not. So the peoples who were maintaining the canal systems, that was their habit to show excessive discharge at the tails. So for this purpose, now there is a second check since 2006. They also check out the data which are provided, and that is a surprise checking. So in fact, the data quality in the Punjab has improved. Now with the passage of times, they were measuring the discharge with the traditional methods by using the chronometers. Now they have even purchased the ADCP, that is the latest instrument. Now all the main canal systems and even the branch canal systems, these are measured with the ADCP by the irrigation department. And as you earlier pointed out, about more than 6,000 sites, they collect the data on the daily basis, and they also disseminate on the website. This is in fact about the data of the surface water. As regards the groundwater, that is there is a Directorate of Land Reclamation, and there were about more than 2,000 piezometers in the entire province, and they were responsible to measure the gauge twice in a year, one before the monsoon season and once for after the monsoon seasons. But now now the department has brought up, after the approval of the Water Act, now the department has introduced three kinds of new setups. One is the Water Commission, other is the Regulation Authority, and third one is the Water Resource, Chief Engineer Water Resource Engineering. Now the Chief Engineer Water Resource Engineering, all the groundwater measurement, that will come under the Chief Water Resource Engineering. They are hiring the peoples, groundwater specialists, modelers, remote sensing specialists, all kinds of people will be there in the water source engineering, and they will be having the independent system for the groundwater measurement of the entire provinces, and they are also going to increase the piezometers in the entire province. So that is the way how definitely with new systems, the quality of the groundwater data will also be improved by the department.
Thank you very much. Thank you for comprehensive answer. Now we will move towards the audience for a couple of questions. Ji Abu Bakr sir.
Thank you, Usman sir. I think again this issue regarding fidelity of data and quality of data, availability of data. Maybe I think Rubina, you are a little bit on the pessimistic side, and I think Cheema Saab is probably too much on the optimistic side of things. So the reality probably lies somewhere in the middle. I think the irrigation department, I would really say, has done a wonderful job in terms of putting up all the information. You don't even need to ask them. You can just go to their website and download last decade of data, and you can, and we have done that. Even without explicitly asking for that data and doing those sort of analysis. So there are certain organizations that you were pointing out towards, and they are reluctant, very reluctant to share data. I think some of that needs to be fixed. I think especially maybe Cheema Saab for public sector universities, for those organizations, they probably make that data easily available, but probably they should extend that to private sector universities, and as well as to universities who are working abroad. So I know many people who have complained about that particular organization, that they keep asking for money because they're doing academic work. So I mean, if this is a consultancy work or something like this, of course it makes sense to ask for money. So the same way that they are providing data to public sector universities, they should extend that to that. But I think that's a minor complaint in the sense that ultimately that data becomes available. The second thing that I wanted to point out was that a lot has actually changed in terms of the availability of publicly available, freely available satellite data products just in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I don't need to go to PMD to get rain data. I mean, there are sort of so many products out there, soil moisture products. So I mean, we are not taking full advantage of what is available out there. In fact, I'm beginning to feel that there is actually a data deluge that we are not taking advantage of. Third thing is, we always keep talking about primary data, like data that is directly collected from the gauges, or maybe a satellite remote sensing product is there. You process that data to make further products. Like for example, if you want to do return flows, suppose, is there a good, I'm not a hydrologist, but is there, like for example, a good model out there configured for the Indus Basin from where I can calculate return flows in order to calculate irrigation efficiency, etc.? I don't know of many examples of that. So probably that is the area that we need to work on. But I mean, these were just some general comments that I think things have moved quite a bit in the last few years in terms of availability, in terms of the opportunity to do things. But then, of course, on the academic side of things, I think probably some more things need to be done, which is not explicitly dependent on just the availability of data.
Thank you. I would like to comment at least and apologize if I gave a wrong impression that I've been negative on data and everything. That was definitely, certainly not my intention. I didn't have time, so I thought I'll just put out the contentious issues out there. I do agree there is a lot of data available. Irrigation departments have been very, very helpful. We've worked, FAO has gotten information from the Punjab Irrigation Department and Sindh Irrigation Department for that matter. And we have very good relationships with PMD also. Let me just put it out there. And we did get free data from them, by the way. What I was also getting at is you see, my colleagues here also said that we do water accounting, and one of the comment, maybe I speak too fast because of the shortage of time. Water accounting, how can you do water accounting? Oh, you can if you have to define, and this is where I came when I said we need to use the same terminology, we need to mean the same thing by the same phrase and by the same terminology. Water accounting, you need to know land use when you do water accounting. How do you know where the water is being consumed if you don't know what crops are being grown, for example? That's one example. Punjab Irrigation Department used to collect that information, not anymore. They used to collect for revenue, and I'm not criticizing again, that's just my observation. Sindh does collect that information. Having said that, there's huge underreporting on crops, especially the water intensive crops, for whatever reasons, and let's not go there because then we will never stop talking. How do you do water accounting if you don't know which crops are grown, where the water is being used? That's number one. Number two is boundaries. So while data is available, for example, crop data is available at district level. Canal data is available at canal level. We did get a lot of support from Punjab Irrigation Department to convert that thing and to come up with the boundaries of canals. Having said that, when we talk about the water accounting of other sectors, including domestic and industry, we need to do water accounting at district level where crop data is available, but water data is not available. Then different organizations have different mandate. Of course, PMD is under a different ministry, a ministry that is not supposed to probably share data. I don't know. These are the things. Now, on remote sensing models also, you do need ground data to calibrate. Garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have good data, you will not get the good results. And that's extremely, extremely important. I agree, and that is what I said. I mean, we have to do with what we have. We cannot produce data like that, generate data. As you're doing, I mean. Okay, so I think that's one last thing. Irrigation system of Indus Basin were modern irrigation of systems of their time. There is no denying it. They were very good. 100 years later, a lot has changed. This has to change also. Either you go, and besides, they're not even operated for what they were designed for. So that's a big issue there. Thank you.
Do you want to comment? Okay. Bashir Sab and then you.
Thank you. I think Dr. Wahaj has been very lucky that she had a good relation with PMD and they got the data. although we PRC we do have a very good relation with the PMD, but think upon the people, individual student, individual researcher, and many other organizations. As said Dr. Abu Bakr, many people are very serious researcher, so they want to do, and we make good facilitation, and I really appreciate irrigation department work. So they have already put lot of on, because we think upon how much efforts an individual do for collecting, and not collecting but acquiring the data from PMD or WAPDA. So half of their time span of a degree they spend on acquiring the data. So we think upon how much we can facilitate for that one, and we have to de-link with the amount, how much, I don't think how much they can earn from the data, and how much efforts we are doing that. And one more thing on PRC side, although we are not a custodian of any data agency, but we have developed agriculture info dashboard that is based on basically Pakistan statistical data, which is again, although available in the public domain, but it's very difficult to get that data. And we have developed an interface so that people can very easily with a single click can get this agriculture statistic data, and we will be launching that data on 22nd of December. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gil sir, briefly please, we are over time.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be brief. I think while we are having the data collection, data analysis, and data use and communications, I think the point made by Dr. Rubina Wahaj was a different one, and that was just agitating to my mind regarding water allocation, water use, water governance, and its productivity in areas outside Indus Basin, particularly the Potwar Plateau and other areas. That is a major concern, as we see that these Potwar region, where rainfall is ranging from 600 to 1,000 millimeters, is generating water, and hardly fraction of that water, maybe 5 or 6% is utilized. Rest is going through Haro and Sawan rivers below Mangla, and that's unaccounted for. And we are still labeling these areas as Barani areas, where the yield productivity of wheat productivity is 15-16 man, 1.6 to 7 tons per hectare, which is but still as a result of rainwater harvesting efforts by off and on farm storages, mini dams, small dams, and other efforts, I think we need to increase the water productivity by capturing that water and utilizing it. And same could go for, this is my question to academia, to apex research organizations like Pakistan Agriculture Research Council, PCRWR, to go for because this area, Potwar Plateau, and rest of the areas which are, we are saying, cultivable wastelands, or even desert and semi-desert areas, they have a lot of potential where we could utilize this data effectively for that purpose. And I think this is a question which I'm posing to the organizer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gil sir. Is there any further question? Okay, if not, then we are almost over time. For the closing remarks, I would like to request Habibullah Bodla sir for giving his remarks. I mean, we all know about him and we all have interaction with him before, but just to fulfill the formality, Bodla Sahab is working as a Chief Engineer in Irrigation Department of Punjab Government. He has extensive experience of water distribution, regulation and monitoring of canal operations. He has also intensive experience on flood and infrastructure management of the entire Punjab province. We all know that he is a pioneer in the department as he introduced the innovative technologies, latest tools of water distribution and monitoring and water accounting. Sir, floor is for you.
As the Gil Sahab has pointed out, the water counting, we cannot, water counting, in fact, whatsoever we have discussed, this subject requires more attention, in fact, water accounting. Unfortunately, water accounting is not being carried out as it should be. Especially, we all know that it's a federal agency responsible for the water distribution among the provinces. What's their mechanism is, before the start of, there are 2 seasons, before the start of the season they call the advisory committee, and in the advisory committee they give the share to each province. And based on the matching years mean, what is the matching year? For example, if they want to distribute the water for the Kharif seasons, they will discuss in the March and they will see whatsoever the supply is available in the rivers during the March. They will see how during the history for the last 60 or 70 years, how many years were matched during this year, and based on that, they forecast the water availability. In fact, that is totally the statistical tools, though no link with the snowfalls, no link with the other temperatures or the other environmental parameters. Recently, Australian has also developed a tool for them, but that is also statistical tools. Irrigation department has now developed a tool. That is a snow runoff models plus glaciers. These tools cater for all these things, and we are now, Punjab at least can forecast in a better way as compared to the IRSA. But there is more thing. More thing is, but after obtaining the share of each province, now it is up to the each province whatsoever they give the data of the IRSA. So whatsoever the data you collect from the IRSA, that is in fact the data given by the each province. Now it is the just province, if I am the action of the Tonsa Barrage or I am the action of the Guddu Barrage, it is totally, it depends upon me. Either I give the correct data or give the wrong data. And what is happening is, I am sorry to say that I am giving such comments, but unfortunately this is happening. Now the main thing is that during the early Kharif, we are always having the shortage of supply. And almost, and after during the 3 monsoon months, we are having the ample supply. And whenever there is early Kharif, for example, during the last season, the Sindh department has projected their losses up to the 52%. During the early Kharif, I am saying. So now the provinces has developed mechanisms that whenever there is a need of water, they will raise the losses, they will increase the losses. So this is not the way. In fact, we cannot move further. We cannot, I mean, that distrust which we are having, we can only can ignore it or can improve it if we are having the proper robust water accounting systems. Without that, definitely confidence building measures cannot be developed among the provinces. So we are already short of time. This was the point which I wanted to highlight, that is in fact a water account system is a need of the day for the Pakistan, at all levels, not at the federal level, but also during the at the provincial level, even up to the distributory levels. For example, the tailenders, they always get the less water, and the head reach irrigators, they always get the more water. But if we will be having a water accounting system, even at the distributory levels, then definitely we can improve the equitable distributions, and we can ensure the fair distribution up to the tails. So water accounting is required starting from the federal government, I means at the top level, then at the provincial levels, and even up to the distributors, and minor, even up to the outlet levels. So water accounting is the major issue which we, all the people who are sitting here, we should focus on it, and we should try at our own whatsoever we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, tea is ready, so thank you.